In this video, we're going to be graphing parabolas. Let's graph y squared equals negative 12x. We'll state the vertex, the focus, and the directrix. Well, the first thing I notice here is that the variable being squared is y. So that tells me that my parabola is going to either open to the left or to the right. We'll have to determine the value of p to decide whether it's left or right. I also notice that I don't see any parentheses. That tells me that my vertex is located at the origin. So with all these conic sections, if there aren't any parentheses, that means that the center or the vertex is located at the origin. We want to get our equation written into our standard form, which would be y squared equals 4px. This is just a simplification of our standard form where I've plugged 0 in for h and k. So to rewrite it in this form, we would have y squared equals 4 times negative 3x. So this tells us that our p-value is negative 3. Since our p-value is negative and the y is the variable being squared, that tells us that our parabola is going to be opening to the left. Okay, I have all the information I need to graph my parabola. The vertex is at the origin. I have my p-value, so that tells me where my focus and my directrix are going to be, because each of them are absolute value of p units away from our vertex. Since our parabola is opening to the left, that means that the focus is going to be 3 units to the left because it's inside the parabola, and our directrix is going to be 3 units to the right because our directrix is always behind the parabola. And we typically draw that directrix in using a dashed line. Okay, well now we need to know how wide our parabola is so that we can draw it in. This is where we're going to use the lattice rectum, which has a length of absolute value of 4p, and it goes through the focus. So really what I think of is once I get the focus, I'm going to go 2p in either direction to get the points that I need to draw in my parabola. So 2p is going to be 6. I guess I'm doing the absolute value of p there. So 2 times 3 gives me 6, so we're going to go 6 up and 6 down. That makes the entire lattice rectum 12, which is our absolute value of 4p, and now I have the 3 points necessary to draw in my parabola. Parabola in red. Let's finish answering the questions. We've identified the vertex. Now they want the focus. We have that labeled. That's the point, negative 3, 0. But now the directrix is a line. So we need to make sure we're writing it as the equation of a line. It's a vertical line. So our directrix is x equals 3. Let's try another one. Let's graph y plus 2 quantity squared equals 4 times the quantity y plus 1. The first thing I notice here is that x is the variable being squared, so that tells me that it's opening either up or down. I see parentheses, so that tells me that my vertex is not at the origin. It's going to be at an ordered pair HK. Remember that H is always with X, K is always with Y, and it's the opposite sign of what we see in the equation. So we see that the vertex is -2, -1. We need to find our p-value for the other details of our equation, so we want to make sure to rewrite our equation in standard form. So we can identify that p-value. So really, it's just this part that we're working on to identify our p. If 4p equals 4, then that tells us that p is equal to 1. All right, so my vertex is the point -2, -1. I know that my parabola, since the p-value is positive and x is being squared, is going to be opening up. I'm going to go p units into the parabola to identify my focus, and I'm going to go p units behind my graph to identify my directrix. So since my parabola is opening up, I need to go up to identify my focus, and then the directrix is going to be p units behind it. It's going to be the line down here. Next, I need to figure out how wide my graph is going to be. From the focus, we're going to go 2p units on either side. So I'm doing 2 times p, which is 2 to the left and 2 to the right. And now I have my 3 points and can draw in my parabola. There we go. Let's answer the rest of our questions. State the focus. We already have that identified. Our focus is going to be -2, 0, and then our directrix. This time it's a horizontal line. So the equation of our directrix is y equals -2. All right, let's take a look at one more. This time it's in general form, and we're going to have to convert it to standard form by completing the square. The first thing I notice is that the y is what's being squared. So this tells me not only that my parabola is going to be opening to either the left or the right, but that we're trying to get this equation in the standard form, y minus k squared equals 4p times the quantity x minus h. So I got to manipulate what we have now into that form. We're going to have to complete the square. The only thing we're completing the square for is the y, because that's all that has a square. So we're going to keep our y terms on the left, leave a little space, and then I'm going to put all the other terms on the right, 8x plus 8. And we need to complete the square for the y. So we'll take its b value, divide it by 2, and square it. So 4 squared, we get 16. So we're going to add 16, and we're adding that to both sides because we don't have that completing the square where we factored something out in front like we did with ellipses and hyperbolas. We're just adding a normal 16. Our left side factors into y plus 4 quantity squared, and then on the right, we're going to have 8x plus 24. I want you to notice in our standard form that it's just 1x in the parentheses. And right now what we have on the right-hand side is 8x plus 24. So to get this into our true standard form, you want to factor out whatever the coefficient of x is, or whichever variable is over here, linear on the right. Even if that creates a fraction, factor it out. It doesn't happen very often that we get a fraction. That just means that our vertex has a fraction in it, and the reality of it is that happens sometimes. Okay, so there's our standard form. Y plus 4 quantity squared equals 8 times the quantity x plus 3. We can, from here, identify our vertex. Remember, h is with x and k is with y, so our vertex is -3, -4. We also need our p-value, and we're going to be using this right here to get our p. We know that that is equal to 4p by our standard form. So if 4p equals 8, then that tells us that p has to be equal to +2. Our p-value is positive, y is the variable being squared. I know for sure now that this is going to be opening to the right. We have all the information we need to graph this. Let's start with the vertex, -3, -4. P is equal to 2. We're going to go P units inside the parabola to identify the focus. So since the parabola is opening to the right, the inside part is going to be the right. So here's our focus. And then our directrix is going to be P units behind the parabola. So that's going to be 2 units to the left. And I'll draw in my directrix. Next, we need the 2 points for the width of our parabola. The total width is the absolute value of 4p, so we go the absolute value of 2p on either side of the focus. P was 2, so 2p is going to be 4. I'm going to go 4 up, 4 down, and now I have my 3 points to draw in my parabola. There we go, parabola in red. We'll answer our last 2 questions stating the focus. It's the point -1, -4, and our directrix. We have a vertical line this time, so it's going to be x equals -5.